coming together over the Trump agenda. President Trump and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell insist that their relationship is better than ever as they work together on major legislative goals, including health care and tax reform. That show of unity yesterday in the White House Rose Garden came just 2 hours after the president blamed Republicans for failing him.
We're not getting the job done. And I'm not going to blame myself, I'll be honest. They are not getting the job done. We are probably now, despite what we read, we're probably now, I think, at least as far as I'm concerned, closer than ever before. And the relationship is very good. We're fighting for the same thing. Just so you understand, the Republican Party is very, very unified.
Contrary to what some of you may have reported, we're together totally on this agenda to move America forward.
And the Senate is expected to consider a budget resolution this week on Thursday that is key to eventually overhauling the tax code. Erin Elmore with us this morning. So, Erin, what did you make of that joint appearance yesterday? They're really insisting that they're close and
besties. Truthfully, he said this is better than ever. I think it's necessary, more necessary than ever.
Right.
Mitch McConnell knows that his job is on the line here. And critics of President Trump, specifically the Democrats, keep saying he hasn't gotten anything done. He hasn't gotten anything done. He needs this tax reform.
Yeah.
So two people coming together with joint goals seems to be the way to get it done.
So it looks like they've got a Rand Paul vote, yes, on the tax plan. John, what do you think about that? It looks like they even have Bob Corker. We were talking about this yesterday. Is there a road to passage here?
They have these votes on the budget, but that's just the first step in getting all this done. They have so many other hurdles that they have to get over. They have to come to agreement on what to do with the high-end tax rate. What to do with
that's off the table. I mean, I haven't heard a lot about that. You're talking about that fourth bracket?
The fourth bracket, but you'll hear more about that. You have estate taxes, you have corporate taxes. There are a lot of competing coalitions within the party that have to get together. But I agree with you, Erin. At the end of the day, they have to get something done, or else it just looks like a lost year. So that, I think, carries them forward.
Looks like a lost year, and they're also facing re-election in 2018.
They have to get this done, and everyone who's naysaying needs to remember, this isn't like health care where you have a mentality of, we're taking something away from you, perhaps. This is a mentality of, hey, we're cutting your taxes. The budget will resolve itself. There's going to be a lot of wrangling back and forth. I say there's going to be a do no harm principles that take effect here, where I think the state and local deductions are going to stay in place. I do think
they stay in place.
I think they stay in place.
If they stay in place, though, that means they can't cut rates as low as they want to cut them.
They're going to find the middle ground here.
They'll find a middle ground, but I think what I would advise people is to be wary when they say this is the largest tax cut in history. The fewer deductions they get rid of, that means they can't get rates as low as they want to.
That's right. And I'm still not with I'm a math guy, and I'm not with the Mnuchin math here. I don't see how this adds to revenues. I'd love it if supply side theory is going on somewhere. Arthur Laffer's probably shouting at the TV.
Yeah.
Hope you're watching, Dr. Laffer. But. Yeah, that's what it comes down to. But still, there's something here where both sides, McConnell and everyone in the House and President Trump, can wave a flag and say, we're going to declare victory here.
There will be something. It's kind of like Christmas. If you're expecting a big car in the front yard, maybe instead you get a toy car under the tree. I think it's going to. Could look something like that.
They could put caps in there.
In the middle, right?
They could put caps in there on the SALT, on the state and local deduction, right? So if you make a certain amount of money, then you can no longer deduct it. But under that level, you can deduct it to ensure that, in fact, it doesn't turn into a tax increase.
The other moving part is a lot of people are expecting them to get rid of the estate tax altogether. What we're hearing is there's
pushback in the Senate.
They might put some caps on how much they reduce the
middle
estate
ground
tax.
Yeah, there's definitely pushback there in the Senate. Let's talk about the Federal Reserve for a moment, John Hilsenrath. Right. President Trump plans to meet with Fed Chair Janet Yellen on Thursday to talk about the possibility of nominating her to a second term. Yellen just one, though, of several people we've talked about in terms of running for that job. Do you think Yellen gets it? I mean, we don't know what the president's going to say, but he'll likely make this announcement this week.
That's the key, is we don't know what the president's going to say. The people advising him are pushing for someone else. They're pushing for a Republican. Janet Yellen is a Democrat. People are pushing for Jay Powell, who's a moderate Republican. They're pushing for John Taylor, who wants rates higher. The thing I think the president has to ask himself is, he's got an economy now with 4.2% unemployment. He has a stock market hitting record highs every day. Does he want to change horses in the middle of this race when the race is going pretty well for him? If he stays on the horse he's on, it's a Democrat. And how much is he committed to changing parties and having a Republican in the Fed?
What do the markets want, Michael?
Markets like what's going on. Look, we're at all-time highs, as John pointed out. And where did that happen? That happened under the Janet Yellen's watch here.
Easy money, Janet.
It's easy to slaughter sacred cows, but I'll tell you this. I give Janet Yellen high marks for operating well within the reality that was handed to her that she stepped into. It's a market that did well in expectations. We can argue at the end of 2015, she was painted into a corner, had to raise rates. The market became a little unsettled after that. But since then, I think the communication skills, I give him a solid A. The thing is, Trump is very much looking to say, hey, change for change's sake. What does that mean? Maybe she's going to be sacrificed here.
What's the risk that he shoots himself in the foot by changing?
It's very high, and that's the problem, which is why perhaps Jerome Powell is the answer here. He's a little to the right of Janet Yellen, but really it could be the closest thing to status quo we have.
But he's also unknown. We don't know how he's going to run the place. We know how Janet Yellen's going to run the place.
It is an unknown, and it is. This might be the best, as opposed to John Taylor.
Doesn't like unknowns.
And let's not forget that this is a major experiment what the Fed is doing right now. So we'll see what happens. I mean, we had Jeffrey Gundlach on Wall Street Week this past week and he basically said, look, I wouldn't even be surprised to see a recession second half of 2018 because the Fed is going to blow it, that they are going to do too much at once in terms of winding down that $4.5 trillion balance sheet while raising interest rates just when this economy is gaining traction.
Right. Although, I mean, not to come up sounding like I'm cheering for Janet Yellen here, but if there's someone who you don't think would raise rates very aggressively, it would be Janet Yellen. She was the super dove at the Fed during the crisis saying, cut rates, do QE. She wanted to do all these policies to get the economy going. She doesn't want to undercut the thing right now, so they've been raising rates very slowly.
Okay, all right.
But we're dealing with the ultimate unknown, which is our president, who's the ultimate disruptor. So he could do absolutely anything. We see all these names on the table. We could end up with none of them.
That's true. That's something we ask about every day when we're preparing all these.
That's true. You're right, Erin.
When we're preparing all these stories about who it's going to be. It's like he could turn to them tomorrow and say, you know what, I like any of these people.
Erin, when's your Fed interview?
That is funny. All right, well, we'll keep watching that. We'll see if we hear the decision this week.